All right, in this video, we're going to talk about how to build wealth through house hacking. Now, I have watched some people do this, and so I think I know exactly what they're doing and why it works so well. So we're going to talk about this, why we think it's great for first-time investors. Obviously, very flexible depending on where you want to do it, and it's repeatable. Like, I've seen people do this multiple times, the same person do this multiple times and succeed with it. And so it could be a great way for you to build wealth. And I'll also talk about probably markets that I wouldn't do it in and the markets that I think it's ideal for. All right, so let's get into what is house hacking. So really, essentially, it's essentially like you're living in part of the property and then renting out another part of the property, right? So you can live in one part and then rent out another. And so in the place where you're living, you're collecting rent, and that's helping you pay down the mortgage. If you got a mortgage on that piece of property, you can earn income. And really, like I mentioned before, this could be done with duplexes, triplexes, just a normal single family, and then ADUs, which we'll talk about what ADUs are. Anything that's a rentable space is essentially what you can do this for or do this with. Okay, so what are the benefits? Well, obviously, it's going to reduce housing costs. Now, this is a great I'm just amazed that my niece actually fell into a house hack. She was just looking for a property. It was back when probably around 2021, rates were super low, and she heard through the grapevine that a house was going for sale in this certain area. And so she, through like Facebook Marketplace or something, I don't know how she got connected to this person. They ended up buying the house, and it came with a resident. It came with somebody living in a basement that was fully built out. So it had a kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, living area, all that. They bought this house, and this person's paying enough rent to essentially pay almost all of their mortgage. So it's a great way to reduce. Like, how would you like to go from $1,500 mortgage to a no-dollar mortgage? That's what essentially my niece has done. Eliminate out-of-pocket expenses, build equity faster. I mean, just think about this. If you wanted to in these units, you could essentially continue to pay your mortgage like normal and then apply that person's payment to your mortgage if you wanted to do that. Or you could set aside that money that you would be paying for mortgage for a real estate investment. Whatever the case is, you could do a number of different things. Obviously, lower living expenses, kind of the same thing as this up here. And then live affordably in higher cost areas. I believe that house hacking is probably better for A-class, B-class type neighborhoods. And what I mean by that is if you're looking for C and D class, you're looking for a single family unit. Typically, you're not looking to move into those areas. You're looking to just buy the properties individually, a duplex, triplex, single family, whatever, small apartment complex. You're looking to buy those individually at a reduced rate. And a lot of times you're trying to find something that is a property that's in need of a lot of repairs, hopefully, so you can get a really good deal on it and build equity pretty fast. I think house hacking is best for higher priced areas. Now, this could be in any city, but I think, obviously there's places like Denver, maybe even Nashville, that the prices have gone up so much that it's hard to do traditional rentals right now unless you're finding an undervalued property. But you can house hack in all of these areas. So the type of properties, we've mentioned this: duplex, tri or quad, single family with extra space. This is what my niece has done in the basement area. And then there could be ADUs, which is an accessory dwelling unit. And a lot of times this is, you have a house and then you may have a detached garage with a living space above it. Or you may build something completely separate on the property that can be an ADU. And a lot of people do this in really expensive areas so that they can rent out part of that space and collect income and kind of offset the expenses of living in a high dollar area. All right, how do you finance this? Well, you can do traditional FHA, which would be the lowest you can put down on FHA is right now is 3.5% with a 580 credit score higher. If you have lower than a 580 credit score, then I think you put down 10%. I think that's the way the FHA says right now. You can do conventional loans, flexible terms with competitive interest rates because it's where you're going to live. So it's super easy. And then you can even do VA loans. So you can finance any kind of house hack. That's the great thing. It's not seen as a separate, like a commercial piece of property. What do you need to do? Let me give you what not to do. I'm going to tell you, my niece did this. She did not. I asked her probably 3 or 4 months after a new resident moved into her basement area. I was like, well, where did you find your lease? And she said, well, I didn't have them sign a lease. And I was like, what? You didn't have them sign a lease? What are you talking about? I said, this person's living down below you and you don't have a lease? She goes, no, they were just like the person across the street. It was a family member. I said, I don't care if it's your own family member. I don't care if I'm moving in there. You want me to sign a lease. So this is, you want to screen residents no matter what you're doing. If you're house hacking, don't do it just for friends. You definitely want to screen. So you want to do income verification, make sure they have adequate income to pay for this. Now, this doesn't mean that things won't happen where, they lose a job, have a health issue, but at the time they're renting, you want to make sure that's happening. You want to do a credit check and make sure you're doing a background check. When we do background checks, we don't want to rent to anybody that has felony or a violent misdemeanor. You want to do reference checks with previous landlords is primarily who you want to do that with. You want to get their rental history verification. Hey, have they paid rent? Did they pay it on time? I think probably this right here, these two are really important. And the question that you need to ask is, would you rent to this person again? That's a very objective question. They can say yes or no. Would you rent to this person again? You definitely want to check for evictions. Make sure they haven't been evicted. And again, here's a pro tip: clear written guidelines. You want to screen everyone the same. You want to follow fair housing laws. You'd be surprised at when people reach out to us and talk about us renting their property or renting a property for them, and they say, "Oh, we don't want to rent it to family. We don't want to rent it to anybody with kids." And we're like, we can't discriminate based on familial status. So we can't do this for you. So just be careful what you're doing. You 100% want to follow the law. All right. So what about managing? Well, in a house hack, you can go one of two ways. The person can know that you obviously are the owner and that all decisions go through you. And so people a lot of times don't need any kind of property management. They just do it themselves and build a relationship with this person, and it works out well for them. Other people don't want the resident to know anything. If it's, let's say it's a duplex or a triplex or a quad, they don't necessarily want the other 3 residents knowing that they're the owner of that person. They want to be treated like they're also a resident. And so they may act even as a property manager and say, hey, I'll talk to the owner. Or they may hire a property manager and just let the property manager deal with it all. You can do whatever. So that's the great thing. You can have a house hack and have a property manager manage the whole thing for you. And you just would need to negotiate and obviously they're not going to collect rent from you. So you can do self-management or you can do property management. And really that all comes down to how much do you want the resident knowing about your business, like that you own that property or not. If they know that you own it, they're going, it's in my opinion, it's always been easier to have a third party do everything for me. I've managed my own properties before. And after a few years of that, I turned it over to Evernest and just said, please manage my properties. I don't want to do it anymore. So some people like to do it. It just depends on if you have other things you need to be doing. If you have other high return activities that you could be doing, like out finding properties, then I would say do those things. All right, so what are the pros? Obviously, you can gain equity, rental income simultaneously. You're paying down the mortgage, the property's appreciating, you have somebody paying that for you. It's a low cost way to get into owning rental property. And if you can stomach it, if you can do it for a period of times, I know somebody else who did a fantastic job of this. She and her husband did this several different times in Chicago, I believe, did this several different times. And then they started buying properties out of state and started doing some Airbnb, some long-term rentals. But they used that as a way to gain a ton of insight into owning rental property. They set up their systems and processes, but they had more control when they were doing it through the house hack, right? The mistakes they were making, they were like living on the property. They didn't start out of state, but they eventually got there. So if you are okay going a little bit slower and taking your time, then this could be a great thing for you to do. Obviously, tax benefits. And then this is the one that I just mentioned. You gain real estate experience. Like, this is incredible real estate experience when you own and live in the rental property. What are the downsides, the cons? Well, you're sharing this living space. Some people don't like that. Other people don't care. My niece doesn't care. I've known several people who have done this, and they've actually enjoyed the whole process. But if you don't want to share your living space, most people who house hack that's not their forever solution. It's just a way for them to get started. So maybe you can put up with it for a little bit. Maintenance and responsibilities. Obviously, if you're living in the property, you're going to have your maintenance and issues, and then you're going to have other people. And even if you just like run into them out in the hall and they say, hey, I want you to, I want to talk about this, or I want to talk about that, then that's going to be more of a problem. And then obviously potential vacancies, which that's the case for any rental, is you're going to have vacancies. The good news about having a vacancy in a house hack is you're living there anyway. So it's just, it's not like you have another mortgage you have to pay or another loan you have to pay. It's the same loan that you took out for your primary residence, because it is a primary residence. So is it right for you? I think first you just consider your goals and say, hey, does this fit into my goals? Am I okay taking a little bit of a slower, probably safer route to building a rental portfolio? What about willingness to manage? Are you going to be able to do that? And then long-term vision. Again, what I said, this is a stepping stone to future real estate investments. That's what you should be considering. And so that's it. Is it right for you? I hope this helps. I think house hacking is fantastic if you can do it. And I highly encourage, especially if you're in a Class A neighborhood or Class B neighborhood and you want to live there and have just a great rental and aren't you don't mind living very close to other people, your residents. All right, that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to our channel, and we'll be back with more investor-friendly videos just like this.